This video is going to be about how to make a matrix for your gel printing. And by a matrix, I mean to make something that you can use over and over again. And we're going to be using just a small piece of cardboard. I like to get my cardboard from frame shops. A lot of times they have a lot of like scraps. It's just perfect for printmaking or painting on. They're nice, heavy, matte. It's actually matte board. And I just go to my local frame shop in Arlington and say, hey, do you have any extra matte pieces? So I would recommend that you do that instead of going to buy any. But if you need to buy some, not a big deal either. So you are going to need some mat board for this exercise because you want something that's stiff. I mean, it doesn't have to be fancy board for sure. And I mean, this isn't the greatest stuff in the world either. But, the really good stuff is white on both sides. It's, 100% rag, cotton rag mat board. This is probably just like, some less expensive, some sort of mat board that's got a stiffness. So I'm going to show you now on my table here what I would like you to do. And there are actually a couple of ways that you can make an interesting matrix. And so, we're really thinking abstractly here. We're not going to go into any kind of image making. I mean, that is something that you can do, but for this class, I think, it's best if we kind of keep it abstract design. So one of the easiest things that you can do is to use, this is the gold product. It is clear tar gel. And this stuff is clear when you use it. You can use it as a medium to mix your paints with, but the very special thing that it does is that it creates drips, and they will dry as you squeeze them out. So let me just show you what this is like. So you can squeeze out this stuff on a board, and the bead that I'm making will not level. It will stay raised. And so you can imagine that when this dries and it's a slightly raised surface, it will shrink down a bit. I mean, what you see is a little bit higher than it will actually be when it's dry, but it will certainly be high enough to roll your brayer across the top of it and be able to print it. You can either print it directly onto your jelly and pick it up, and so you'll leave the impression of your spiral here, or whatever it is that you choose to do with the clear tar gel, or you can paint it with open paints and use it as a stamping kind of a process on prints that you've already made. So there's a lot of potential to add more interest to your prints. So that's one of the things that you can do. And as you can see, that took me literally a couple seconds. You don't have to be fancy with it. You can just simply make some designs, some lines, some dots. I would keep it simple, but that's a great way to get a matrix that you could use over and over again. Okay, and the other one that I want to show you is another golden product. In this case, I'm using heavy gel matte medium. A couple of different things you can use, but just to make it simple, this is also something that you can easily continue to use after this class because it is a great adhesive. This heavy gel matte medium, like soft gel matte medium, makes a great adhesive for collage. So if you buy this in a little container, I can guarantee you that you will get use out of it after we're done. So in this case, what I'm going to show you is I'm going to spread this on a piece of cardboard. I'm going to just squeeze out a bunch here. There we go. I'm not going to make a big image here. I'm just going to do a little one to show you. And we need to spread this. So I'm going to use my little palette knife here and kind of spread it out across the area that you want to make. Ideally this, if you did want to do this, you could do it across the whole board here. I'm just doing a sample, so I'm just going to do a little area here. Okay, and you can see that it has a real raised surface, right? This means that when it's wet, you can carve into it. You can't carve into it once it's dry, but you can while it's still wet. So what you could do is make some lines to it. So this would be, again, a matrix. This is going to dry with the lines in it. It's going to shrink down because all acrylic products will shrink. The water is evaporating out of it, and what you're left with is the um, matrix of this heavy gel mat, medium. And then you can imagine you can go over this with a brayer, and you will have this interesting sort of linear design that you can print in places across your print. And again, just like the other one that we were talking about, you can either press this right into your jelly to pick up paint, and you'll get the reverse of this, or you can roll your brayer with the paint on top of this image and print it on your paper, on your print. All right, and then one last one that I'm going to show you, which is a little bit more involved, but it's really, really a good one to know. Well, there are actually two that I'm going to talk about. This one here is I'm going to show you how to do it. The other thing to do is a lino cut. And I kind of don't want to ask you guys to get into that if you haven't already done one, because it's more than we're really ready to cover in this class. But if you've ever made a lino cut, it's a piece of linoleum. These days they sell stuff that's much easier to cut than the old-fashioned linoleum. I forget what it's called, but I can send you a link. Super easy, like butter to cut. And you would use lino cut tools to cut it. If you want to do that, you're welcome to do it. It is not hard to learn how to do it, but that's another thing that you can do, to make imagery or to make a matrix that you can print over and over again. But so I'm not going to get into showing you how to do that. Is again, I highly encourage you, if you're interested in doing that, to get some of the basic supplies, but it's not a requirement for this class at all. So instead, let me show you what I think you could easily do to get another kind of an imagery, would be to um, see this is cardboard here. This is I'm going to say it's about a 1/4 inch thick. This is foam core board, gator board. This is fairly easy to find it on. Again, you may be able to get some free from a framing place. That's where I got this. So that's really nice if you can get it. And you'll want to cut it with a mat knife. And you'll, of course, want to be careful with your mat knife. But I would recommend that you put down another sheet of cardboard that you can cut on so that you won't be cutting your table. Get something like that. So I'm going to use this to cut on. And, this one is just, have fun with it. I mean, I'm going to just cut some simple shapes, things, triangles and some maybe squares and rectangles. You could be, a little bit more specific about just, what you always want to do is put your hands above where you're cutting, right? If you remember to do that, you won't cut yourself. And also, this is not a good blade. This is not a fresh blade. You want to use a really fresh blade. Oh, don't do what I'm doing. I love it. Don't do as I do. Do as I say. I'll just put some shapes out here. If you try to cut this with a pair of scissors, what happens is the edges kind of get flattened out. That's okay though. I mean, you might want to do that instead, but they get a little flat. That may or may not bother you. So once we've got a bunch of these pieces of board cut, then what we'll do is we'll take another piece of this, and using our heavy gel matte medium, see, I told you, you use it again. You can take some on your palette knife, put a little bit on your piece of cut contour, and you're creating a raised surface here that you can imagine. You can either roll up with your open paint or press into your jelly to pick up the paint and leave an image that way. So again, this is just another way to make a matrix. Again, that is something that you'll hold on to. You can use it over and over again. It becomes a vocabulary. It becomes part of your shape vocabulary, like stencils, like other things like that that you might make out of plastic and you can keep and use over and over again, from print to print to print. Whereas, something that's on the surface of the jelly, it's pretty much gone after you use it. So, there you go. Simple. It just requires a few special pieces of equipment or special products. So again, it's a heavy gel matte medium. It doesn't have to be golden, it could be really any brand, but that's something that is a heavier gel medium and it doesn't even have to be matte. It could be glossy. It doesn't, for our purposes, it doesn't matter because we're just using it as a glue. And you could also use just regular glue on this. So that's what you see. And what I want to do is just show you what I mean by this. So I'm going to pause. Okay, so I'm going to put some paint onto my jelly here, my open acrylic, and we're going to just see what that matrix printing kind of looks like. So put more paint here. So now one of the first things we're going to do is just make an impression in the jelly on the paint that you've already rolled up. Now, and there you go. So you took away your paint, and maybe you want to do it a couple more times. Let's see, because that could be really interesting. Okay, and then let's take a sheet of paper and see what. I'm not bothering to register this right now because I just want to pull it for you. See what we're doing. Great. So, that's pretty intriguing, and you can imagine, using that in many ways in your print, right? And then, of course, we have paint already on here. If you put a little bit more paint on there, the edges, and let's print that on the other side here. So here we're using positive. So we need to probably have a little bit more paint on there, but you get the general idea. So painting is a little bit. The other thing too is that this is the first application of the acrylic, and so the board that I'm using is absorbent, and so it is going to absorb the paint in. But after you've used it once or twice, what happens is the paint starts to seal the top of these images here, these shapes. And so the paint will not keep soaking into it. So it'll rest on the surface more, and you'll have a whole lot more paint to be able to print.